Shi Hao remained unable to calm himself after discovering that a true immortal slept within the Bronze Immortal Palace and that other immortals still existed in the world, some of whom even held grudges against the Kunpeng. Shocked by these revelations, he asked the single-armed elder how many people still remained in the lonely frontier city. The elder sighed and explained that very few were left. Entire clans had been exterminated, while others were reduced to only a handful of sickly old people. Nearly every powerful cultivator had died in battle. The city had stood alone at the very front of the battlefield for countless years, receiving no reinforcements despite once being filled with experts. Even such overwhelming strength had eventually been worn down by endless warfare. Looking at the scarred city walls, Shi Hao seemed to hear the echoes of ancient war cries and recalled the scenes he had witnessed aboard the Black Ancient ship. He imagined the 7 kings standing at the front, leading the defense against an endless foreign army. As casualties continued to rise, even women, children, and elderly people climbed the walls to fight, shedding blood together to defend the city. Thinking about this, Shi Hao angrily questioned whether the tragedy of the past was about to repeat itself. He felt furious that while his clan had fought and sacrificed everything on the front lines, those who remained safely behind had instead persecuted and massacred them. The elder agreed that the 9 heavens themselves had serious internal problems, saying that even if only 2 or 3 true immortals remained alive, they should not have remained silent for so many years. Instead of defending the Stone Clan, Fire Clan, and the other frontier bloodlines, they had allowed slander and false accusations to spread against them, something that filled the elder with rage. He then revealed another reason for the misunderstanding surrounding the frontier clans. During the ancient war, the city's kings had once killed several great figures from the 9 heavens and had even deliberately allowed certain individuals to return alive to the foreign realm. This immediately made Shi Hao wonder whether there had been traitors or spies involved. But the elder refused to explain further, merely sighing and implying that hidden secrets remained buried. Even so, he firmly declared that people within the 9 heavens definitely knew the complete truth. Yet they still tolerated the humiliation inflicted upon Shi Hao's clan, making the situation utterly disgraceful. Shi Hao silently reflected that the 9 heavens were far more complicated and chaotic than he had ever imagined. He then asked whether the city had truly defended the frontier alone for all these years. The elder answered with a bitter smile that while they protected the front lines, their descendants could spread throughout the lands behind them, believing that alone made their sacrifices worthwhile. Behind that smile, however, was the unwavering determination of an entire bloodline that had long accepted death as their inevitable fate. Shi Hao then asked the question he cared about most, whether any of the legendary 7 kings were still alive. Remembering their earth-shaking roars and their unmatched strength that once restrained the foreign army, he hoped he might still meet them. The elder answered that several of the 7 kings still survived, but their remaining lifespan was extremely limited. After the others died in battle, they had willingly burned their own true bodies and precious bones to continue supporting the city. Seeing Shi Hao glance toward the immortal bones burning beneath the city walls, the elder clarified that those belonged to slain foreign immortals whose power was extracted by the city. The 7 kings, however, had voluntarily ignited their own bones after death, transforming themselves into an endless source of energy that maintained the city's defenses. Deeply moved, Shi Hao asked whether the city could truly withstand attacks from foreign immortals, ancient ancestors, or even immortal kings if they personally assaulted its walls. The elder simply replied that after countless years, the lonely city still remained standing. Behind those simple words lay unimaginable suffering and sacrifices paid by countless lives. Seeing Shi Hao's confusion, the elder finally revealed the city's greatest secret. The ancient city itself possessed extraordinary power and served as the key to controlling Heaven Abyss, allowing it to block even the strongest experts from the foreign realm. When Shi Hao asked what Heaven Abyss actually was, the elder explained that it was a sea of natural laws carrying supreme judgment. Before severing their connection with the lower world, the immortal domain had helped establish this power, and Heaven Abyss remained linked to the immortal domain itself. However, after endless ages, its power was nearly exhausted. Shi Hao realized that every revelation he had heard that day was an ancient secret hidden from the world. The elder then invited Shi Hao into the city, trusting him completely and allowing him to become the first outsider admitted in countless years. Although the elder had already shared many astonishing secrets, Shi Hao sensed that he still carried even heavier burdens in his heart. As though he was struggling with an important decision. When Shi Hao asked what troubled him, the elder quietly admitted that the final decisive battle was approaching. The lonely city and the ancient battlefield might soon reach their end and disappear forever. Shi Hao was stunned. If the final battle was truly imminent, did the people defending New Imperial Pass even know about it? The elder answered that those remaining in the city had sensed it for a long time. They believed that even that very day, foreign immortals might arrive at the gates and launch the true invasion of the 9 heavens and 10 earths. As they spoke, the city gate shone with divine light. Shi Hao and the elder were instantly transported into the city after the ancient city itself carefully examined Shi Hao like a living soul and confirmed that he posed no threat. Inside, the enormous city was eerily quiet and almost empty. Only a few elderly survivors guided ragged children through its vast streets while cautiously observing Shi Hao. Compared to the immense size of the ancient capital, the remaining population was pitifully small. Everywhere Shi Hao looked were dried bloodstains, weathered buildings, and ancient streets bearing the scars of endless war. He also saw exhausted women and even younger children, their dirty faces filled not with hope but with fear and nervousness as they stared at him. The city held no laughter or celebration, only silence and suffocating despair. As they walked, the elder casually mentioned another ancient mystery, saying that the ominous force influencing the foreign realm was rumored to originate from its deepest regions. Although some doubted that explanation, even these passing remarks contained invaluable secrets. Soon, Shi Hao noticed a massive palace shining with blazing divine flames. Within it, he could vaguely see several kings still seated in meditation. Although they had already died, their bodies continued burning, their flesh releasing spiritual essence while their precious bones fed the city's power, allowing them to keep protecting the frontier even after death. The elder described this calmly. But Shi Hao understood the immense grief hidden beneath those words. These legendary heroes, whose strength once shook the world, had ended their lives by sacrificing even their corpses to defend humanity. Nearby, the descendants of the 7 kings, thin, dirty children, stood weeping before the palace. Their cries echoed through the silent city, making the atmosphere even more heartbreaking. The elder sadly explained that these pitiful children had inherited nothing but endless suffering because their ancestors had ordered every generation to defend the city until death, never retreating. Unable to bear seeing them condemned to the same fate, the elder hoped Shi Hao would secretly take them away and let them survive, even if doing so meant violating the commands of the 7 kings themselves. Shi Hao then witnessed even more heartbreaking scenes. A little boy wearing tattered beast-skin clothing innocently asked his mother when his father would return. Holding back tears, she lied that he would come home after the child grew up, despite knowing her husband and 3 older sons had all died long ago. Elsewhere, a timid little girl asked her grandmother when she would finally meet her father, her uncles, her older brothers, and even the grandfather she had never known. The old woman, whose body had become frail with age, could only silently stroke the girl's dirty face without saying a word. These ordinary yet devastating scenes existed throughout the city, revealing the unbearable human cost of its endless defense. Deeply shaken, Shi Hao pleaded with the elder to let all the women and children leave for a safer place where they could live normal lives. By the time he had finished walking through the ancient city, Shi Hao had learned countless hidden truths about the frontier, the 7 kings, heaven abyss, and the sacrifices made by his clan. His heart grew unbearably heavy, and with the final decisive battle rapidly approaching, he realized that the fate of the lonely city, its remaining defenders, and perhaps even the entire 9 heavens and 10 earths would soon be decided. The ancient city was vast and majestic despite gradually falling into ruin. But it lacked vitality because only women, children, and elderly people remained, while nearly all the warriors had died in battle. The single-armed elder brought Shi Hao to the king's residence, a lonely hill stained with dried black blood, where the last surviving member of the 7 kings remained hidden. The king was already on the verge of death. Yet as long as he lived, the city would not collapse and the power of heaven abyss could still be maintained to resist the enemy. Shi Hao respectfully paid tribute to the 7 kings, recalling the scenes he had witnessed on the black ancient ship's altar where the kings, together with their clansmen, including women, children, the elderly, and the weak, fought to the death against the invaders, sacrificing everything to defend the 9 heavens 10 earths. Their corpses covered the battlefield, Their blood soaked the ancient city. Yet after endless ages their names and achievements had been forgotten by the outside world. The last king awakened briefly, calmly telling the elder to take the children away from the city. The elder knelt in gratitude with tears streaming down his face, while the king sadly blamed himself for failing the younger generation. Before his aura faded again, he spoke only one word to Shi Hao: live. Shi Hao immediately sensed this was both advice and a warning that an even greater catastrophe was approaching. One that would bring mountains of corpses and rivers of blood, showing that even the final king was not optimistic about the coming war. The elder later explained that after countless generations of fighting, the king's life force, blood, and spirit were nearly exhausted. The children living in the city had no carefree childhood, having lost their fathers in battle and growing up surrounded only by weapons, blood, bones, and the constant struggle to survive while protecting the city. When the warning bell suddenly rang, every child immediately grabbed powerful magical artifacts and rushed toward the city walls. Shi Hao was astonished that even the youngest children possessed astonishing physical strength, speed, discipline, and killing intent comparable to fierce beasts. The elder explained that an enemy was attacking. Outside the city stood the corpse of an enormous beast with an alligator body. 2 heads, one resembling a golden crocodile and the other a fierce pung, and a pair of massive golden wings. Although creatures capable of reaching the city walls were usually undying beings, this one was merely a corpse being controlled by the enemy to test Emperor City's defenses. Something that had happened repeatedly in recent times and suggested that the decisive war was drawing near. The elder ordered the children to defend the city, occupying fixed positions along the walls. They activated special secret treasures that resonated with the ancient city's formations, causing the walls to awaken and release powerful sword energy toward the beast. Some children also silently recited sacrificial texts to borrow energy from special undying bone flames preserved within the city. Shi Hao realized that this seemingly simple process was actually extremely dangerous because even the slightest mistake while channeling the undying flames or operating the formations would instantly kill them. Nevertheless, the elder calmly explained that their ancestors had once carried those same undying bone flames into battle alongside the 7 kings, willingly sacrificing their own lives, while summoning the full power of Heaven Abyss demanded an even greater price and was reserved for fighting undying kings. As the battle continued, several children exhausted themselves, coughed blood, and collapsed, forcing the elders to carry them away for treatment. Eventually, the elders joined the defense, combining their strength with the city's formations to create an enormous blood-colored war halberd that cleanly severed the beast's head. Although a strand of the beast's will escaped, its purified corpse was dragged into the city as valuable food. That evening, everyone gathered around bonfires fueled by burning beast bones. The elder offered Shi Hao some of the beast's meat, explaining that it contained tremendous essence energy and that generations of children had grown powerful by constantly consuming the flesh of ancient beasts. Shi Hao realized that if these children had been raised peacefully in the outside world with proper cultivation resources, every one of them could have become an outstanding genius. However, the elder also warned that the flesh of foreign beasts contained an inauspicious substance that, if consumed for too long without purification, would eventually cause cultivators to lose their minds. He even suspected that many races and king clans on the enemy's side carried traces of the same corruption. That night, the elder instructed the children to spend time saying goodbye to their mothers and grandmothers because they would leave the city at sunrise to learn stronger techniques elsewhere. When they became powerful enough, they were to return and continue defending their homeland. Many older children immediately refused, declaring that this city was their home and that they preferred to stay, fight beside their ancestors, and have their blood and bones buried there rather than abandon it. The elder, his voice trembling with emotion despite his stern expression, ordered them to stop arguing and return home to spend one final night with their families. At dawn, the elders personally carried the children to the city square, encouraging them to return only after reaching the level of their ancestors. Warriors capable of shooting down stars with a single arrow. The mothers and grandmothers, who themselves remained part of the city's fighting force, tearfully bid farewell as the children cried and clung to their loved ones, saying all the words they had never spoken before. Finally, as the golden morning light illuminated the ancient city, Shi Hao led the children away, while the long shadows stretching behind them seemed reluctant to let them leave their homeland forever. Shi Hao left Emperor City at dawn, leading several hundred children out of the ancient city. The children silently cried as they departed, tears hanging from their dirty faces after leaving the only home they had ever known. Shi Hao carried a special bone tile that allowed him to freely enter and leave Emperor City despite the powerful realm barrier surrounding it. Shenming and Sanzing hurried over in shock after seeing Shi Hao emerge with such a large group of children. Shenming jokingly asked if he had gone to visit his relatives, but Shi Hao seriously confirmed that he had. The two golden undead knights were stunned, realizing Shi Hao truly shared the same bloodline as the inhabitants of Emperor City. They asked how he escaped because they had repeatedly failed to break through the floating continent's unbreakable realm barrier. Shi Hao simply used the bone tile, which allowed him and all the children to pass through the barrier without difficulty. Auspicious clouds carried the group safely down from the floating continent into the Great Desert. Although the children were still crying, they were also filled with curiosity because they had finally stepped into the outside world they had only watched from afar for countless years. It was the peaceful land they had always dreamed of living in. Though none of them knew what their future would be, Shenming happily remarked that they had finally completed their strange journey after traveling from Ocean Fall and experiencing many bizarre events before returning to Desolate Border. She invited Shi Hao to accompany them to the burial region, claiming it was an even holier paradise than Immortal Domain. She explained that the true residences of burial kings contained longevity medicines and unmatched holy lands, even mentioning that a true phoenix had become little more than a guardian bird there. Shi Hao acknowledged knowing that the burial region possessed extraordinary sacred lands, but declined the invitation because he urgently needed to return to Imperial Pass. Shi Hao feared the foreign side was preparing a massive offensive. He worried that Heaven Abyss, which had long separated the two worlds, might soon collapse completely and that even the current Imperial Pass could eventually be breached. Feeling pressed for time, he decided to escort the children to safety and immediately report everything he had learned. Sanzing and Shenming also chose to return to the burial region, believing major events might also be unfolding there. As the group crossed the Golden Desert at sunrise and approached Imperial Pass, the city guards noticed several hundred figures advancing from the horizon. Believing enemies were approaching, they immediately sounded the warning horn. Soldiers in full armor gathered on the walls with weapons ready, as the atmosphere throughout Imperial Pass had already become tense in recent days, with many sensing that a devastating war was approaching. Using heavenly eyes, some guards soon realized the approaching figures were mostly children. Then someone recognized Shi Hao among them and shouted in disbelief. Everyone on the walls froze. Huang had supposedly been captured by the foreign side and could never return. Yet he was now walking back toward Imperial Pass. Rumors had previously spread that he had escaped from the ancient realm and displayed extraordinary power in enemy territory, but few believed he could truly return alive. The news that Huang had returned spread through Imperial Pass like an explosion. Countless people were stunned, unable to believe someone considered permanently lost had actually come back. However, some immediately ordered that Shi Hao must not be admitted until his identity was thoroughly verified. They feared he might be a fake, or that powerful foreign experts had taken control of his body in order to infiltrate Imperial Pass. Others argued against stopping him, creating heated arguments across the city walls. Many questioned how someone who had become a prisoner could possibly escape from enemy territory. The mystery became even greater when they saw Shi Hao bringing back several hundred ragged children dressed in torn beast skins stained with old blood, making everyone wonder whether they had come from the foreign side. Standing beneath the enormous gates of Imperial Pass, Shi Hao calmly identified himself when questioned. He requested that the gates be opened but completely understood when the guards refused, explaining that they first needed to confirm his identity. Rather than showing anger, Shi Hao voluntarily requested a complete examination. Divine light descended from the city's formations and enveloped his body. Powerful detection techniques carefully searched his physical body, spirit, soul, and every trace of his cultivation, checking whether any hidden experts or foreign spirits had attached themselves to him. At the same time, urgent reports were sent to Meng Tianzheng and the highest-ranking authorities. The astonishing news quickly spread throughout the city. The lunar jade rabbit accidentally knocked over her pill furnace before rushing toward the gate. Qing Yi immediately hurried over after hearing that Shi Hao had returned alive. Cao Yusheng laughed loudly in disbelief. saying he had even awakened his master and planned to settle accounts with Jin Taijun over Shi Hao's forced exile. Qi Hong, exiled immortal. Shi Yi, the Wei family's 4 phoenixes. Numerous young geniuses, senior experts, and ordinary citizens all rushed toward the city gate after hearing the unbelievable report. Imperial Pass possessed records of every cultivator's life imprint whenever they left the city. Since Shi Hao had departed several times before, the formations compared his current life imprint with the original records and confirmed that the person outside truly was Huang himself. The city then performed another complete inspection using its defensive formations to ensure there were no hidden dangers remaining within him. After confirmation spread, many cultivators on the walls became genuinely excited. The lunar jade rabbit shouted that she never expected to see Shi Hao alive again. Tuogu Yulong happily promised to drink with him once he entered the city. Many people warmly welcomed him because they had long sympathized with the injustice of his exile despite his enormous contributions. In contrast, members of the Wang family and especially Jin Taijun's lineage looked extremely gloomy. Since they had been responsible for sending Shi Hao away, after all examinations proved normal, the city prepared to admit Shi Hao. However, officials refused to allow the children inside because they could not verify who they were. Shi Hao firmly explained that the children were descendants of the warriors who had defended the ancient imperial city in the sky. Their ancestors had remained at the front lines for endless years, continuously resisting the foreign army's main forces and protecting the 9 heavens. Even though almost everyone had forgotten them, his words shocked many people because quite a few within Imperial Pass knew of the ancient city but believed it had long since fallen. They immediately asked for proof. Shi Hao responded that the children possessed the same unique bloodline as himself. He instructed them to circulate their magical power, causing special divine symbols on their foreheads to shine brilliantly. The glowing patterns immediately confirmed their shared bloodline. When several people exclaimed that these were descendants of the so-called sinner's bloodline, Shi Hao became furious. He angrily rebuked them, declaring that these children's ancestors had fought on the very front lines for countless generations, sacrificing everything while never retreating. If such people were still called sinners, then those living safely behind Imperial Pass had no right to judge them. Controlling his emotions after remembering the tragic fate of the defenders, Shi Hao declared with absolute certainty that every one of these children descended from incomparable heroes whose achievements surpassed almost anyone else's. He denounced the false title of sinner's blood, demanded to know who had imposed such a disgraceful label, and insisted that this historical injustice must one day be repaid. Shi Hao then briefly explained the truth about the original imperial city, revealing that only elderly people, women, and children remained there, yet they still continued to defend the city against the foreign armies without surrendering. He challenged anyone to continue calling them descendants of sinners after learning the truth. The city walls fell silent as many people were deeply shaken by his words. Although some individuals still expressed doubt and requested further evidence, Meng Tianzheng personally appeared, standing like an immovable mountain. He declared that he believed Shi Hao. He immediately ordered the ancient bone mirror to examine every child, instructing that if the inspection revealed nothing abnormal, all of them were to be welcomed into Imperial Pass. The snake Xianxia, a member of a powerful foreign king clan known for its exceptional flying abilities, was monitoring Imperial Pass from high above the Great Desert when it unexpectedly spotted Shi Hao returning alive. Realizing that Huang had escaped from the foreign side, it became extremely excited, believing that reporting this discovery to the nearby foreign great figures attempting to cross Heaven Abyss would earn it a tremendous reward. As it spread its wings to leave, Shi Hao calmly raised his hand and condensed a golden lightning spear. The attack traveled at incredible speed, pierced straight through the snake Xianxia's body, and instantly exploded it into pieces. Before dying, the creature let out a final cry that alerted all nearby foreign scouts. Soon, more than a dozen powerful flying self-release realm experts arrived, including blood-red giant falcons, demonic birds wrapped in black flames, blue flame creatures, and 3-footed wyverns. Their presence showed that the foreign army had assigned elite cultivators solely to monitor Imperial Pass, a task that previously would have been entrusted only to battlefield commanders. They immediately sounded alarms to summon stronger reinforcements. An overwhelming undying level aura soon spread across the desert as supreme experts responded. But Heaven Abyss blocked them from advancing. Meng Tianzhong ordered the rescued children to be brought into the city after divine light confirmed that none of them carried hidden dangers or foreign tricks. The foreign scouts then launched countless gigantic bone spears capable of shattering mountains and piercing heaven itself. Shi Hao answered by weaving natural laws into a lightning seal that completely destroyed the incoming attacks. Without stopping, he condensed a massive lightning blade and slashed across the sky, instantly cutting a powerful self-release realm demonic bird in half. Witnessing one of their strongest scouts die in a single strike, the remaining flying experts immediately retreated instead of daring to continue their assault. Even more terrifying auras then approached from the rear as foreign supreme beings arrived. Meng Tianzhong stepped forward, pushed out a single palm to suppress their aura and issue a warning. Then calmly withdrew together with Shi Hao after ensuring every child had safely entered Imperial Pass. Soon afterward, 6 foreign supreme beings appeared outside the desert like towering mountains, demonstrating just how important Shi Hao's escape was to the enemy. Because Huang had escaped from their prison by his own strength, they regarded it as an unforgivable humiliation. One supreme being demanded that Imperial Pass surrender Shi Hao immediately or face complete destruction. Meng Tianzhong responded with only 2 cold words: "Get lost." Inside Imperial Pass, Shi Hao's miraculous return triggered widespread celebration. His friends, including the Lunar Jade Rabbit, Chang Gonggan, Cao Yusheng, the 10-Crown King, Tuogu Yulong, and many other young cultivators, all rushed over to greet him. The Lunar Jade Rabbit jokingly complained that he had worried everyone for nothing. Chang Gonggan warmly welcomed him back. Cao Yusheng lamented that he had wasted funeral offerings prepared for Shi Hao, while even the usually reserved 10-Crown King praised him. Tuogu Yulong invited everyone to celebrate with ancient divine wine preserved by his clan for tens of thousands of years. Shi Hao responded to everyone's enthusiasm, embracing many of his companions, including Qing Yi, because Yu Chan and Qing Yi originally shared one body. Yu Chan awkwardly experienced Qing Yi's emotions as though they were her own. Behind Shi Hao, the rescued children quietly watched the scene in confusion, having never before experienced such warmth, laughter, or genuine happiness. Although the atmosphere inside the city was joyful, everyone remained tense because terrifying foreign supreme beings still stood outside Imperial Pass like gigantic mountains blocking out the sky. They all realized that an unprecedented decisive battle was drawing near. The tension increased further when a foreign supreme being confidently declared that Imperial Pass would fall that very day, speaking with such certainty that everyone believed the enemy had already prepared an overwhelming plan. At this critical moment, Wang family's second dragon publicly questioned Shi Hao, asking how he had escaped from the enemy's supposedly inescapable prison and implying that his return might have brought disaster upon Imperial Pass. Many people secretly shared the same doubts because Shi Hao had been imprisoned under the watch of undying beings, making his successful escape seem impossible. Shi Hao replied that he had intended to explain everything regardless. He warned everyone that the foreign side was preparing for a true decisive war and repeated the information entrusted to him by the single-armed elder of the original Imperial Pass. His account convinced many that the final battle was approaching while also making them deeply admire and feel ashamed before the defenders of the original Emperor City, who had continued guarding the frontier through endless generations with the determination to remain beside the city until its destruction. Although some people still questioned Shi Hao's story because they had not witnessed those events themselves, everyone was completely shocked when Shi Hao revealed that he had even entered the immortal domain during his journey. At the same time, on the foreign side, the long-silent undying kings finally emerged from seclusion after returning from the burial land. Their ancient war chariots rumbled back to life. Colossal beasts awakened to pull them, and the entire foreign army began mobilizing its greatest forces, signaling that the long-awaited all-out offensive against Imperial Pass was finally about to begin. Shi Hao warned everyone not to place their hopes on immortal domain, declaring that the coming war would be a fight to the death and that they could only rely on themselves. Curious about how he had entered immortal domain, the leaders of Imperial Pass gathered to hear his account. Shi Hao truthfully described everything he had seen and heard there, urging the higher-ups to prepare immediately instead of holding false hopes that immortal domain would come to save them. After the meeting, Qing Yi questioned whether revealing everything so honestly was wise, but Shi Hao replied that he had simply spoken the truth. He then escorted the rescued children to the Stone Clan and settled them safely. Although the city was filled with tension, no one disturbed them. Every clan was stunned by Shi Hao's report, and many believed the end of the current era could no longer be avoided. An ancient divination master attempted to reveal a terrifying prophecy, saying she saw the heavens splitting apart, blood and flames covering the world, and even a trace of great vitality. But before she could finish, she suddenly vomited blood, died on the spot, and her bronze palace collapsed into dust together with her body, making everyone even more convinced that an unprecedented catastrophe was approaching. Despite the grim atmosphere, Shi Hao was invited by a group of young geniuses to gather aboard a massive treasure boat on a great lake with an Imperial pass. Tuogu Yulong raised his wine cup, saying this might be their last gathering because after the coming battle they could be separated forever. Everyone understood that no one knew which clans would survive, which would be wiped out, or which might surrender to the enemy. Great Shu Tuo, an inheritor of the ancient monk lineage who normally never drank or ate meat, broke his religious precepts to enjoy the feast, deciding to treasure the present rather than fear the future. Shi Hao's safe return should have been a joyful celebration, yet the shadow of the impending decisive war weighed heavily on everyone. Taoist Qi Jiyu sighed that Shi Hao had been born in the wrong era, believing that if he had lived 10,000 years earlier, his unmatched talent would have allowed him to rise without being crushed by the current catastrophe. Jin Zan, whose Jin family had once been responsible for Shi Hao's exile to the enemy side, unexpectedly attended the gathering but remained silent, quietly drinking. Wang Shi also appeared, sitting peacefully in white robes among the crowd. Shi Yi later approached Shi Hao and asked about the remaining members of their shared clan. Shi Hao admitted that only a few clansmen had survived and expressed regret that he, Shi Yi, and Qing Hao would never have the opportunity to stand together against the enemy's undying beings. After silently sharing a final cup of wine, Shi Yi quietly departed. Soon afterward, the heavenly horned ant rushed over after hearing that Shi Hao had returned alive. He boldly declared that even if the world was ending, they would simply fight until death, killing enough enemies to make their sacrifice worthwhile and hoping to reunite with their loved ones afterward. 10 Crown King laughed fearlessly, vowing to slaughter the enemy until they knew fear. Exiled Immortal calmly sat aside playing his flute, while Wei family's 4 phoenixes danced gracefully and Princess Yao Yu joined the gathering. The greatest geniuses of the era laughed, drank, and openly shared thoughts they had never expressed before, fully aware that many of them might never meet again after the coming battle. Watching this scene, Shi Hao was reminded of his mysterious experience in Immortal Ancient, where countless extraordinary young geniuses had once gathered with the same passion and confidence before being completely annihilated in a sea of blood. Later discoveries had confirmed that those ancient geniuses had truly existed and perished during the destruction of the previous era, making Shi Hao fear that the same tragedy was about to repeat itself. Their gathering was suddenly interrupted when thunderous war drums and the mournful sound of the true dragon bugle horn echoed throughout Imperial Pass, announcing that the decisive battle had finally begun. Every genius immediately received orders from their respective clans, left the gathering without hesitation, and rushed toward the city walls. There, Shi Hao looked into the distance and saw an endless black army stretching across the horizon like a boundless ocean, its overwhelming killing intent shaking heaven and earth. An old supreme being sighed that the long-awaited day had finally arrived. Moments later, a heavenly spear filled with incomparable undying power pierced through the sky and struck toward heaven abyss. Astonishing everyone, the defenders realized that the enemy's undying beings had begun attacking heaven abyss despite the terrifying consequences such an act might bring. An imperial bell echoed across the entire desolate border, allowing all living creatures to witness the events unfolding in the distant horizon. Soon, a heavily battle-scarred war chariot covered with countless weapon marks slowly advanced toward heaven abyss, pulled by a gigantic dark red bull with a golden back and golden horns. The ancient experts on Imperial Pass immediately recognized it as the legendary chariot of Anlin and were horrified to realize that an undying king himself intended to cross heaven abyss and personally enter the battlefield.